Today's daf is daf Pei Zion. We're actually up to Pei Zion on the base on the bottom. So let's uh, um no Pei Zion. And we did the Mishnah yesterday already, but we'll do it again. Okay. Mishnah. We'll do the Mishnah again. Yodea ani sheyesh nedarim. The person says, I know that my wife has the right to make nedarim. I will aini yodea. I did not know sheyesh mafir, that I can annul it. Now we learned in the Torah when a husband hears the day that he hears about the neder is the day that he's allowed to annul it or confirm it, but beyond that he can't. So he said, I knew that she can make nedarim. I just had no idea that I had that right. And or yodea ani sheyesh mafir. I knew that. So in part number one, the din is yafir, that he has the right to be mefer. Now, second half of the Mishnah. What happens? I knew not only I knew that she has the right to make nedarim, but I also knew that you have the right, that I have the right to annul certain types of nedarim. But I wasn't really aware of which types. I didn't know that this neder that she made now was included in those nedarim that had a right to be annulled. Rameya says lo yafir. Rameya says he cannot annul. Now, the machlek is a shaynim. There's two ways of learning pshat. What's Rameya saying? Is Rameya saying that if the day went by, and from when originally she made the neder, now it's a week later, for example, you can no longer be mefer, because the fact is you already had enough of the idea. Yes, you had enough of the idea, but the partial idea you had is good enough of the idea. So it's a week since then. And the fact that you didn't know the exact details, which netted, is not considered a lack of knowledge, and therefore you've lost your day. That's one way of learning pshat. So the lo yaf is referring to the week later, and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi say no, you can still go ahead and be made because they say that you did not have yet a yediyah, so it's not like it was Yom Shammai. Or we're learning Rameir is saying that even the first day, the hafar is not hafar, because since you did not know. According to Rameir, he says that it's not a hafar because since you did not know that the full thing of Nadarim, you did not know that that you could be made for, you can be made for. So if you made hafar, it has no meaning because partial yediyah is not considered a yediyah. And I would say yes, yapa. Says the Gemara. Ramina, we're going to have a question. A question from another machlek is Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda, where the partial yediyah is considered a yediyah, and there Rameir seems to say that partial yediyah is considered a yediyah. In our Mishnah, Rameir says that partial yediyah is not considered a yediyah, and there Rameir seems to say that partial yediyah is. And what it goes is what it talks about is as follows: that if you killed someone in error, and the pasuk uses the expression "below your eyes," you did not see this person coming in, it was not really your fault, and you fell on top of the person died, and you had no hostility towards that person, then you had no intention to harm him, so then you have to go to exile, you have to go to Ori Miklat. Now the pasuk says, below ice. Below ice means you didn't see. What about a blind person who can never see? How do we treat a blind person? And he killed somebody by mistake. Does it fall under the category of below ice? He didn't see, so he has to go to Golus to Bar Miklat. Or do we say, Belayra ice means that currently you didn't notice, but otherwise, generally, you do notice things because you're a seeing person. But a person who's always blind does not fall under the category of Belayra ice. It's an Einus. It's not a Shagi, it's an Einus, and he doesn't go to Golus at all. Which one is it? Well, we'll have Machlekes Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda. But I mean, we'll ask a question. Belayra ice, Prat the Summa, Rabbi Yehuda says, Belayra ice excludes a blind person. Below ice you didn't see now, but other times, on other cases, you can see. Or you can see other things right now, but you didn't notice. Below ice like you didn't notice. But you're a person that's shy to notice things. So a blind person is exempt. And Rameh says it comes to include the blind person. Why did it come to include the blind person? Because even though he cannot see, he can hear. And actually, a blind person can hear better than most people because one aver is weak, another aver is much more sharply attuned. So he has a partial yediyah. And he could have had a partial yediyah. There's another person there, and he didn't. So below rice, he also falls in the category of it's a shaygid. It's a mistake. So what do we see from here? A mayor holds that a partial yediyah is considered a yediyah. And therefore is included in Ore Miklat. In our Mishnah, Rameh said a partial yediyah is not considered yediyah, and therefore he cannot be made for on the day because he only partly knew that he's allowed to be mefer, and therefore he could not be mefer on the day. A mayor says if he did not know, if he knew that and if he knew that you can make hafara, he just did not know that in this case he can make hafara. A mayor says you can no longer be, you cannot be mefer, and why not? Because you did not really know that you could make the hafara. You partly knew because you knew that you could make hafara in certain cases. Part yediyah is not good enough. You need a full yediyah. So Rameir holds in our mission that a partial yediyah is not a yediyah. Rameir says over here, by who comes to a blind person, he says, he's included because he's a partial yediyah. Why is a partial yediyah? He cannot see, but he can hear. He could have heard somebody was there and he didn't, so it falls under the banner of shaking. Below Rais means that now he didn't see or he didn't hear, and so on. So we see it's chastira. Rava says you totally misunderstood. The story over here about the blind person in Golus is a question of how to understand the psukim. It's a technical question, nothing to do with logic as to whether a partial idea is considered idea, not idea. What's the story? They're arguing on the how to read the pasuk, because everyone agrees if the Torah says a miut, it comes to exclude something, but if you have a double miut, then it comes to include. Exactly. Ein miut acha miut el rabbis. It comes to include. Where's the double miut? So each one has a different double miut. It goes as follows. Rabbi Yehuda says, Gabir Retech, the Torah opens up when it comes to Retech. It says, we entered the forest to chop wood, and then the handle fell off, and it hit somebody. That's right. And it says over there, it starts off, somebody enters the forest. Who's that somebody? There's no criteria. It means anybody, including a blind person. So everybody's included. Called over Meliyah, anybody. And the blind person also enters the forest. Okay, so we right now from this pasuk we would say that a blind person has to go to Golus if he kills somebody by mistake. Now, if you can tell me like Rameir that below Ra'is comes to include a blind person, then I already know that from the pasuk that anybody comes into the forest, already included a blind person. Why does the Torah say again below Ra'is to tell me to include a blind person? You want to say that the fact that it says below Ra'is that he cannot see, it doesn't matter if he cannot see now, cannot see anything. The fact that he cannot see, that's a blind person. You want to say below Ra'is is coming to include a blind person. If you come to include, we already know that from Asher. So there must be, he's coming to exclude. It must be the B'Tayda starts off Ashiyave Esrei B'Yar includes everybody. He said everybody but a Beloy Ra'is, but a person who can never see. He's excluded from going to go. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Meir says, no, I hold it to Miat after Miat. How? Meir Savak says, Bibli Das, he said, without any awareness, without any knowledge. In this story of the what do you call it? Of the killing it says without knowledge of bloidalos means kol dava made only somebody who could have known. Now obviously a blind person couldn't have known, he can't see, but a blind person couldn't have seen, so he doesn't know. So the Torah already excludes a blind person. Now if Rabbi Yehuda is right that below ice means that now he didn't see but generally could see, coming to exclude a blind person, why do you need two miyutim to exclude a blind person? Loy Meida and what called and below ice. Two psukim telling you the same thing, that a blind person is not included. The yam below ice practice. Tell me below ice is come tell you what somebody who cannot see here but sees other places. But a blind person who can never see is not included. Miblidas nafkale. We already know that. So miblidas that is awareness, and a blind person is not aware that anybody else is there. So he's already been excluded. Why need a double exclusion? El shmamen below ice the rabbi says from. Must be that when it says it below the ice, it's coming to include, because ein mir, we have a double negative, it's a positive. We have ein mir, achamir, you have one exclusion, and then the same thing excluded a second time is actually the Torah is trying to tell you to include it, not to exclude it. So a blind person is included. So the argument about a blind person, whether they're included or excluded, has nothing to do with whether a partial yediyah is considered a full yediyah, whether it's considered like he was aware or not aware. There's nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with our Mishnah. Totally unrelated. The Mishnah continues. We're doing our Shabbos' Gemara, which means that the shir that tomorrow night 10 o'clock. All those who are here today don't have to join in. Hamadir Hana Mechasnai. If somebody, let's say, says to his son-in-law, I don't want you to have any benefit from me. It sometimes happens that fathers-in-law and sons-in-law don't really get on. On the other hand, he cares for his daughter. Who writes losses mice, and he wants to help her out because obviously the son-in-law not making enough money, and maybe that's the cause of their dispute. And he wants to give his daughter money. The problem is that a wife, whatever she owns, belongs to the husband. So and if the husband benefits from it, he's breaching his own neder because he said, I don't want you to have any benefit from me. He says for the following two things. First of all, I'm gifting you this money, number one. But number two, number one, I'm giving you this money on the proviso that your husband has no share. That's not good enough. Only that which you will put into your mouth, only that which you're going to use for yourself. Yeah, so turn it into food. Buy with this money food, and food he cannot take away from you. So you need two conditions to make it work. You have to understand why. Says the Gemara. Yeah. Now, even though the husband does benefit now, she doesn't have to give her the money for the food because her father's giving it. That's called an indirect benefit. That's not a direct breach of your neder. Direct breach of meaning is that the money I give her transfers to him. That's a direct breach. Saving him money he doesn't have to spend, that's not called a direct breach of his neder. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav said, we're going to have an interesting argument between Rav and Shmuel. So the Amish says there are two conditions. You have to say that your husband has no share in it, and number two, that you can use it for eating. That one, you can use it to put a place in your mouth, you can buy food with it. So the Gemara, Rav says, Lo Shono, Amish is not talking about El Omala. He said to her, Masha Atno Sasman, he has to add that clause that you're going to use this money to buy yourself food to place in your mouth. I will Omar, if he says to her, Masha Tirtzi Asi, here I'm giving you money, in condition your husband has no shaykhs to it, and you could do with the money whatever you want. Then the husband would still be kind of, you cannot opt out of this particular rule that says that whatever belongs to the wife belongs to the husband because he provides for her. You cannot contract out of that, and therefore, if you just said to him, I'm giving you this money, condition your husband doesn't have any share in it, doesn't work. By adding that which you place in mouth is a different story altogether. Because we say yad ha'isha ke yad baila, the hand of his wife is like the hand of the husband. It's as if he gave the money directly to the son-in-law, and he made a neder that he won't. Shmuel disagrees. He says, "Afilu ama mashatitzi asi lekona yosen baal." Shmuel says that we don't say yad isha ke yad baila. In other words, the halacha is not like our Mishnah, we'll soon see. And we hold that if he said to the wife, I'm giving you this money on condition, you don't give it to the husband, that's enough. Because Yad Isha is not Yad Baila. If I didn't make that condition, then yeah, it transfers over to the husband. I'll be breaching my neder. But because I made that condition, it's good enough. What's going on here? The machlekes of Rav Shmuel is the machlekes of halacha like which tonight. The Rav, when he said that our Mishnah learns the reason of the swara behind our Mishnah is Yad Isha Ki Yad Baila, even if you make it conditional that he doesn't help, you have to add the clause that you're going to buy food with it to eat, because your Rav rules like a maid.
Doesn't that benefit him though?
Indirectly, that's called indirectly. You're not giving any to him, you just money that he already owns, he doesn't have to spend. So that's, I didn't give him anything. That's it's a goydem. I call it goydem.
When we had a kiddush.
I'm a kaddish isha b'milva. I'm going to buy a kaddish b'milva in kaddish. Just you're not giving her anything. You just want the money that she already has. Yeah, but that's a step above this. That's your money you gave her. You didn't have to give back to me. Here, it's his money. And the din is that he has to provide for her. And now you don't have to use that money to provide for her. But your money. So I gave you nothing. So the Gemara. It's an indirect benefit. In fact, we even learned that I can pay off your loans, even though I said you don't have any benefits for me. Remember, we learned Parei is chayvei, because all I am is I'm a goyim. I'm a goyim. I'm causing you that you don't have to pay with your money. So the Gemara, The Omar, Rameir holds Yad Isha Ki Yad Baila. Rameir is the author of that opinion that says that Yad Isha is Ki Yad Baila. That's what our Mishnah is saying. So the only way you get out of that is you make it conditional that the husband shouldn't have any share in it, number one. And number two, you say that the money should be used for food that's going to go to your mouth. That the husband has no rights to it. That's a question for Ramino. That's a question from a Gemara. We had an Erev. It talks about over there. Kate said Mishtatrim Mabba. So you have a chutzah, you have a courtyard, and a courtyard you have 2-3 houses sharing together among the yard. And then you have from the yard you go to a street, a mavi, and then from the street you go into a shirab. Now we made all these takanish. Melech made that a chutzah you cannot carry from your house into the courtyard because your house is your private domain. Courtyard is shared with 2 or 3 other people. It's sort of like a public space. And if we allow you to carry from your house into the courtyard without making an eruv chatzeres, you don't do something to combine all these houses together. Then what's going to happen is that you'll think, what's the difference in the courtyard or walking in the street? I walked out of my private property and I can carry, so why can I continue? So we made a xeris. Then we went further and he said you cannot carry from a courtyard into this mavi. A mavi is we have a number of courtyards that share this side street before they get into the main street. You need an eruv, you need a called shetufim avois, and what you do is you get a common house, you put a barrel of wine there, and everybody contributes to that barrel of wine. Or better, you can be zeich and bezak on behalf of everybody who lives there. And in order to be, you can say this barrel of wine belongs now to all the dwellers here on this side street here. So therefore, we're all sharing together this mavi, and it's no longer considered a shusarabim. It's a private place. We have a shutuf avois. And we build a lechi in the front, to close off the 4th side. We build a post or a koira goes across, and that's how we do the mark off the mavi. And then from there we won't walk into the street because we realize it's different. That's the laws of mavi. Now, in order for me to be zeich, in order for me to make sure that I transact that this particular barrel of wine should belong to every single person, I have to give it to someone else. And I say, lift it, and have in mind that you're doing a good thing for all these other people, even if they're not aware. So who can you give it to lift, to be zeich on behalf of everyone else? It has to leave my possession. I have to give it to somebody else. So who is that somebody else? Says the Mishnah. Says here. Kate said, how do we do this? And this is a Mishnah, and a stam Mishnah is a meh. That's why we're having a problem here. It says you place the barrel, but you say, this barrel belongs to everybody. And who can you use to lift this barrel to have in mind everybody? Even to your Jewish maids and servants, your older kids who do not live with you anymore. Or and says clearly for your wife. Now, if I'm even tell me, and this is a man, if you tell me that Meir is one who holds kana yad, those are Meir holds that yad eved yad rabbi. The hand of an eved is like the hand of a master. Eved can't have money to pay his way out. Because the hand of never belongs to the master. Somebody else has to go to the master to redeem it. You can't give it to the Eved, because whatever the Eved had automatically goes to the master. So we sort of thought that just like by Eved, the same thing applies to Misha. It's like Eved, that's what we thought. So how can you say that? Rameir talks about an Eved, but here we clearly see that he can give the eruv to his wife, and she's considered a third party. I mean, we don't say, because if you're going to say Yad Isha Ki Yad Baila, it never left your Rishus. You might as well pick it up and have everybody in mind, and so it's useless. So if you might have you can tell me Kana Yasin Baila, whatever she has belongs to her husband. Eidul nothing Rishus say. The Eidul never left her Rishus, the Baal from her husband. Omarava says Rabba. Afagav the Omar Ameh, even though Ameh says Yad Isha Ki Yad Baila, even though Ameh says that the hand of a woman is like the hand of a husband. Moider Rameir. Rameir is Moider. That's what Rabbi wants to say. Rabbi wants to say there's a difference. Who gives the money to the wife? If it's a stranger, then Rameir holds just like an Eved, whatever belongs to the Eved belongs to the master, whatever belongs to the wife belongs to the husband. If it's the husband himself is giving it to the wife, but who's giving the Arab? Who's giving the barrel of wine to the wife? The husband is giving the barrel of wine to the wife. Say, look, have in mind everybody. The husband can detach himself. And he says, you know what? Your barrel of wine is yours, and you be zoich on behalf of everybody else. That's what Rabbi wants to make a distinction between someone else giving to the wife or the husband. When it comes to shittu boys, the key when the lischus lachedimu meyad baila zachim, because it's coming directly from a husband to zoich and have others, it works. It's effective. That's what he says. A couple of generations later, they talked about it again. They continued the discussion. Ravina asked Ravashi, I'm not comfortable with Rava's answer. And why is that? He says here, It says in the Braisa by regarding Shivavoy, it says Elu Shazachim, and the following can be Zaychai de Benoy Bitakdoilim, the Abda Shechas even says it clearly that you can use your servants. The Elu Shein Zachim. These are the people you cannot use. Ayde Benoy Bitak Tanim, you cannot use young kids who rely on you, so they never left your rishus. Or the Abda Shechas Knani, which you own Kinyan Gufos in Mark Rishon, the Gimel, and the Ishtay. You gave us no. It's clearly the argument. So if you're telling me that that the argument is like Rameir Chachamim, whether Yad Isha Yad Baila, can explain these two brises. The brise in the verse of the Mishnah. The Mishnah that says you can use your wife holds like the Chachamim that Yad Isha is not Yad Baila, and the brise is Rameir that Yad Isha Yad Baila. But you're telling me that if it comes directly from the husband, even Rameir agrees.
He extracts it from the
exactly. So who's author of the brise then? Who says he can't use a wife? Is it also Svara? El Rabashi. You're right. We'll go a step further. Even if the husband gives it, when do we say that your wife needs one more? There's one more condition before your wife can be zeich. She actually owns her own chatzah there. Let's say it's nichsim malay, she brought into the marriage. It's still her chatzah. The husband gets the fruit, so she needs it for herself. And since she is zeicha for herself, since she can be kind of herself, she's also kind of for everyone else on the estate. So, so we say the Mishnah is talking about she has a chatzah that mother has in the migi the zachla nafsha zachla. So since she acquires a wine for herself, she has her own property. So therefore she cries. So therefore she can do everybody else. The bride is talking about which does not have her own property. Let's do the next Mishnah.